right, WPCD 88.7. You guys are listening to the Monday Mix. We have a very special guest with us today. It is not a usual Monday. Hope everybody's enjoying their spring break. We're starting off strong. I have Jake Aurelian, aka Ripper the Clown, in the studio with me. How you doing this morning, Jake?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me again. Last time I was here was a month ago, exactly to the day.
Exactly a month ago. I've been looking forward to this all month.
Yeah,
really.
I have it too.
I wish I could have been there for Brouhaha 6. That was why we had Jake on here last time. He puts on a variety of, variety shows and comedy shows, and always has a fun event to come through. You want to tell us a little bit about what you got coming up?
Well, we've got the second screening of my film, The Stripper Ripper, coming to Vintage Villains this Saturday night, March 24th. The show starts at 7. The doors are, the show starts at 8. It's going to be a free show. I think we're going to have like a little donation thing if you want to, throw in some money for the venue there. But I'll have DVDs for sale, and really looking forward to this. The first screening of the film went absolutely amazing, and if you'd like to see the trailer of the film, it's on Facebook. Just go on there and look up Stripper Ripper trailer. You could see audience reaction from the premiere there. It was really fantastic. So I knew about halfway through that premiere screening that I was going to have to be doing another one, and that day has come. It's this Saturday.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of it the first time that I had glanced over your event page, but I mean, it's a full feature-length film for anybody listening. It's an hour and 20 minutes?
It's an hour and approximately 23 minutes, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, and it's a whole spoof, and it's awesome. It has homages to all your favorite horror movies, like Halloween.
Yes.
It's just great. I've only seen the trailer. I haven't seen the screening. I'm going to be there on the 24th, this last one, but it looks great.
It's a comedy film that spoofs horror movies. So basically, the scenes are set up like it's a horror movie, and then you've got a slapstick finale for each scene. And you're right, it pays homage to so many different horror movies. Halloween, the original, The Town That Dreaded Sundown, Kolchak, the Night Stalker, the old TV show and the TV movies, and then a lot of other films too, like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, the Batman from 1989, Ghostbusters, Run Lola Run. The Blues Brothers. We snuck in a lot of stuff into the film, and it was really a lot of fun to make. We had an absolute blast putting it all together.
And I love the fact that you guys took the time to make this whole fake county that you call Ripper County. I love that. And in the trailer you see this clown mural behind Ripper.
Yes.
Throughout different parts of it, and it's just so well done and put together.
Well, thank you.
I loved it. I just absolutely loved it.
I've heard from a lot of people that the trailer made them want to come and see the film, and that makes me feel good because that's what the trailer's supposed to do, and it obviously does its job. And I had a lot of fun with the trailer. I have to say that was just as fun putting the trailer together as it was the film.
Oh, especially filming Sean there in that full woman's getup.
Yes.
He's got this pretty blonde wig on and a skirt. Yes. He's got the whole thing.
Sean Husseini plays the doctor, Dr. Loomis, which is a spoof of obviously. No, he plays Dr. Pleasance rather, which is a spoof on Dr. Loomis from Halloween. And in the trailer, he does one line from Halloween when he's talking on the phone to the police.
He's here in Ripper County.
Yes. And so there was a scene in The Town That Dreaded Sundown where they dressed the officers as women to try to lure out the Phantom Killer. So we did that with Sean, but it didn't really work, because he's got his beard. but that was the point of the joke,
So stay tuned to WPCD. We'll be having Ripper here the entire time from 12 to 2 p.m. We'll be talking about his screening and his movie, so stay tuned. We'll have more information with that coming up. Also, feel free to request a song. I'll be here at 373-3790, and we'll see what we can work out if you guys want to hear anything in particular. In the meantime, I got quite an impressive lineup. I have And Run by Sir Sly, Dragula, a classic by Rob Zombie, and Flicking Your Hair by The Hunt. Alright, you guys just heard Adore by Amy Shark, and it is currently 12:25 p.m. today. You are listening to the Monday Mix with Austen, and we have a special guest in the studio for anybody just tuning in. Jake Aurelian, aka Ripper the Clown. You might know him, the infamous clown of Ripper County.
That's right.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks again for having me.
No problem. Thank you again for coming on. It's always a blast.
Yours is one of my most favorite shows to do. I really appreciate you and your professionalism, and it's always awesome to be here.
Well, thank you. I love supporting local people like yourself. And for those of you who don't know Ripper, he puts on variety shows, comedy shows. He writes books. He's a jack of all trades. Certainly a clown that can do anything. But this week we're going to be promoting his latest feature-length film called The Stripper Ripper. And it's a spoof on a lot of your favorite classic horror movies. And you've already done one screening for this?
Yes, we did a screening back in December 16th at Vintage Villains in Danville, and it just went amazing. It was just fantastic. You know, I was really nervous beforehand because, you know, my fiction books, you know, they kind of translated into some 5-minute comedy sets sporadically, and then those transitioned into YouTube videos. But those are much different than having a feature-length film.
Oh, extremely different.
Yeah, that's a lot of time to hold an audience, and so, you know, I was very nervous. I didn't know what to expect, and was kind of pacing around before the screening. We actually watched it. I put it on. I was like, I told Albert, who was on your show last time with us briefly, my friend Albert, who was in the film and he did a lot of the actual filming. I told him, like, let's just put it on and watch it. And you know, I was like watching it and I was just calming down. I was like, wow, you know, this is really good. You know, when you're close to something, you don't know, you know, how people are going to react to it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
especially I can relate to that when I'm mixing a spot or I'm producing something for somebody who wants me to promo, like Brian. I did an interview
Yeah.
with Brian, and I did a pre-recorded interview instead of an on live like I usually do with you guys.
Mhm.
And you spend so much time listening to that interview. I've listened to that interview at least 45 times.
Yeah.
I totally understand where
Yeah.
you're coming from, where you get so attached to it that you just kind of got to like step away from it, and then you go back to it and you're like, okay, well now I can.
Exactly. Yeah, I spent probably hundreds of hours editing each scene and then the entire movie in totality, you know, and so the audience loved it. It was just fantastic. They started laughing right off the bat. It was nonstop laughs. They were laughing over jokes. And they were laughing and cheering during the credits and the applause at the end, which you could hear and see in the trailer. It was like momentarily deafening. It was like being at a WWE show, but that cheering was something I did, and it was just like...
It's so surreal
Yeah.
when it's something that you made and
Yeah,
you're
it was.
screening. And
It was. Like, I was, you know, in character as Ripper that night, and I had the sunglasses on, and I got on stage, I said something like, you know, I'm glad I've got the sunglasses on, because I'm teary, you know, because I was just overwhelmed by the response. And it was kind of a validating and defining moment for me as, you know, an author, creator, stand-up comedian, whatever. You know, and for all of us involved with the film, I think. And we all left feeling really fantastic that night. And in the past, I've had people tell me that they enjoy my books or they saw this video online. But now, at that screening, I got to see it and hear it in person. And, you know, that's much different than reading an Amazon review or hearing an audience react to a 5-minute stand-up comedy set. So it was just something I'll remember for the rest of my life, I think.
was this always something that you kind of like wanted to do in the back of your mind? Like as you developed into your writing and doing your comedy shows, obviously they all kind of like stemmed off of each other as you grew.
Yeah.
Did you ever have that kind of plan in the back of your mind, or was it just kind of like, you know what, I'm going to do me, I'm going to run with it, and we're going to see what happens?
Well, the clown started in my fiction books.
Mhm.
It was just a couple paragraph mention in Dead Wrestlers, Broken Necks, and The Women Who Screwed Me Over, and I liked the name Ripper the Clown. I was like, I'm going to mention that clown in every single one of my books as an inside joke to me and anyone else who may be paying attention. And so that turned into me doing stand-up comedy based on a short story I was writing about the clown, about him doing stand-up comedy, and then that spawned into the comedy videos. So I was doing stand-up in the comedy videos, and then since the Ripper character kind of became the main character of my fictional universe, I was like, well, he should have his own book. In What You Are, a collection of short fiction, I call it a novel of short fiction. He's referenced several times, and then I published all of my comedy sets at the end, mainly just to copyright them.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Claim ownership.
Yeah, and then after that point, I did 3 novels based on the clown: a zombie comedy, time travel comedy, and an alien abduction comedy. And then last summer, a children's book based on the alien abduction. And all this time, I'm doing comedy videos, and they're all feeding off each other. You know, I'm using elements of some in the books, and then I'm using elements of the books in the videos, and kind of how the film got started was I'd had some loose talks with a local TV station about doing a late night TV show. and it kind of faded away because I kind of stopped talking to them about it because I just decided not to do it based on things I've been told. But one of my ideas, if it ever became a TV show, was we would need to do a horror movie spoof. And so that's where that idea was implanted. And then at a certain point I was like, I should probably just do this on my own. And I had heard numerous times from people that, there needs to be a Ripper movie. There needs to be a Ripper movie. And I heard it a lot at, Dark History Con especially, where people are like, you need to do a horror movie. And I was like, I don't think I could ever do a horror movie because doing so would take the character in a direction that I could never come back from. And
you've always been very conscious, and that's not something a lot of people go into, and it's really good that you have that mindset of who your character is.
Yes.
And you know what is going to jeopardize, not necessarily jeopardize your character, but you know what's going to deadlock your character into. You want him to appeal to as many people as possible.
Exactly.
And that's your goal.
Exactly.
And especially making that horror movie into a spoof, I think is a really clever way of incorporating, because that's Ripper, he's this like dark comedy, but he's still like family friendly.
Exactly.
And there's nothing that I wouldn't be afraid to show a child. It's still completely PG.
Yeah. We had kids in the film. We had quite a few kids at the screening. I heard from one mom, she sent me an email, and she said that her 6-year-old son has done nothing but talk about the movie. He had to watch it every night after school that week. And that just like touches me. I'm like, wow, like a little person's out there enjoying what I did. That makes me feel really good. And so, having so many people say, oh, you should do a movie, and at some point in time, it just kind of all fell together. I was like, I should go back to that idea that I had for the TV show about the horror spoof, because there's a lot there I could do. And I'd initially envisioned this as like maybe a half-hour, 40-minute deal. And then as I started incorporating scenes into it, I really realized at a certain point that, wow, this is probably going to be close to an hour and a half. And that's what it ended up being, close to, that time proximity.
I mean, you have a lot of experience. Like, for you on your end, I understand where you're thinking, like, we'll probably start off with a short film or something like that. You weren't really anticipating this full feature length, but at the same time, you have quite the expansive YouTube list of similar things that you have done, not necessarily spoofs, but a lot of those like little comedy skits that you throw in there. You're accustomed to filming and editing stuff like this. And
I am, but at the same time, it was a big jump from going to mainly videos that were 20 minutes long, or 10 minutes long rather, maybe 20 minutes max, jumping from that to an hour and 23 minutes. That's a pretty big jump there.
Oh, it's huge.
And so it was a big difference from that's why I planned a smaller, in the same time frame that I had usually been working with. Because, there are a couple of my videos that were, 10 to 20 minutes long, approximately. But, the idea of doing a longer film, it just happened. It wasn't something I set out to do. It just occurred organically as we were putting it together. And, I had a couple people initially tell me, do you think that the premise of the film will hold up? Because it's people getting hit with pies, it's that slapstick element. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't it? Because you watch horror movies. This was my standard response. You watch horror movies, and it's the same thing over and over. It's people getting killed in different scenarios. Well, this is the same thing. It's just with a comedy spin to it at the end of each scene.
Yeah, they're getting hit with pies.
Yeah. And in the back of my mind, my thought was, would people find entertainment with that? Because that's kind of an old school comedy slapstick. That's it's a Three Stooges type of thing.
Yeah.
So when I saw the reaction at the screening where people were laughing at every pie, I'm like, wow, like it did hold its own as I predicted it would. And I think it was a testament to the fact that no matter what others say, or what comedians do on stage now, or what Hollywood produces or the TV networks produce, that clean humor is still funny.
Absolutely. You don't have to be super outstanding or what's the word I'm looking for, just completely out there, super dark, gory.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to cross the line for it to be funny anymore.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say.
And the same thing I think with horror. Horror is so over the top now. where it's like comedy, because one comedian would do one thing and everyone would have to top him or her, and then someone else would have to top them, and they kept going further and further and further into the wrong direction, I would say. Same thing with the horror genre, where it became, one movie needing to one-up the other one for violent acts and all that type of thing, where really the simplest thing is the best.
Yeah. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the original Halloween, which was a big inspiration for this film. There's not a lot of violence in it. There's not a lot of blood in it. It's a lot of psychological.
And that suspense that builds
up
to it.
Yes. And we redo the scene with the hedge. Yes. That was so much fun to do. And then the climax of the Stripper Ripper is a spoof of Jamie Lee Curtis in the Doyle house at the end of Halloween, and with the doctor running in, and so there was a lot of, it was fun to be able to say, okay, I remember this scene in Halloween, I want to redo it, but put our comical spin on it.
Give it your own take, give it the Ripper's clown of approval.
Yeah.
For those of you who are interested, once again, you can find this screen. This will be the final screening. Correct?
Oh, no, not necessarily the final screening. Just the second screening.
Just the second screening will be March 24th. From doors open at 7?
Doors open at 7. The film will start approximately 8 o'clock downtown Danville at Vintage Villains. And, it's family friendly. Like I said, we had a lot of kids there. We have kids in the film. So, come out and bring the family.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to WPCD 88.7. We'll be talking with Ripper a little bit more. Keep in mind, you can give me a call at 373-3790. You can even talk to Ripper if you want. You give us a call. In the meantime, we got some music coming up for you. I got Soup Song by the Moms. All right, you guys listen to WPCD 88.7. Is the Monday Mason. It is currently 1:02 p.m. Feel free to give me a call at 373-3790. I want to play what you guys want to hear, and I'm going to try my best to do that for you. But in the meantime, we have one of our awesome recurring guests, Jake Aurelian, a.k.a. Ripper the Clown, and we're discussing his feature-length film, The Stripper Ripper, which you can catch. Is it this Saturday?
This Saturday, yes, March 24th.
I don't even know what day it is. This Saturday, you can catch his second screening from, doors open at 7. And
film around 8 o'clock.
Film around 8 o'clock.
Yep.
And that'll be at Vintage Villains in Danville.
Yes, downtown Danville, Vintage Villains.
So we've been discussing this, we've mainly been discussing the trailer here. I want to get into some of Ripper's favorite scenes.
It's hard to say favorite scenes, because the whole thing to me
is your baby.
Yes. But I could talk about a couple of the favorite scenes in relation to the filming, and we had fun with all of them. I work with, mainly when we film, Albert King and Sean Hosseini, they help out, and we have a lot of other people join us from time to time too. We're like a family. We go out, we have fun, we work well together. And
you even do all the shows and stuff together.
Yeah,
too.
we do.
Sean is very recurring.
Yeah, he is. And so, with my books and my stand-up, they've always been composed and performed in a pro wrestling kind of style, where I like pulling the audience and their emotions up and down, just like a wrestling match would, and making them think one thing and then creating a spin, or making them feel one emotion and then throwing in something else. And so couple scenes I think kind of exemplify that, and one of them was a scene that we filmed at downtown Danville at the Fisher Theater in the auditorium, and we filmed it with my friend Sarah Woodard and her daughter Olivia and Carissa Liggett. And the scene is that Sarah and Olive come into the movie theater, and then you see the clown enter from the side, and you know what's going to happen, but at this point you know that there's also a little girl in the mix for the first time. And then, of course, Sarah gets blasted with the pie, and we had kind of wondered how we were going to do this. Initially I thought, okay, I'll have a little bitty pie tin, and I'll just plonk it on Olive's head and get a reaction. If she cries, it could be funny. If she laughs, even better. Maybe she'll take it off, maybe she'll hit her mom with it, who knows what she'll do. But then I started thinking, maybe I should go a different route, because the idea of hitting, popping, even just plonking a pie on the child's head might be offensive to someone. So I was like, maybe we should just play it by ear, and I'll hit Sarah with the pie, and we'll see what
See what the
girl does.
reaction is. Yeah.
And with the idea that instead of coming up to her and hitting her with the pie, I give her a pie. So we didn't know what to expect. It was just total, I told everyone, we're just going to wing this one, see what happens, because there's not going to be much direction in relation to her response. We're going to have to work around it as it happens. And it was amazing. Like, you could hear her laughing in the trailer. That little girl laughed in the trailer, that's Olive. It was fantastic. It couldn't have come off any better. And then Ripper hits her at the pie, leaves. Olive bursts into laughter, and then Ripper pops back in the screen, and you think he's going to hit her with the pie, and then he hands her one and kisses her on the forehead. Now, watching that live, that was pretty amazing at the screening, because literally when the clown re-entered the frame next to the little girl, the audience gasped.
They anticipated you to just full on hit her with a pie.
It was a gasp of horror that simultaneously and just like seamlessly morphed into an awe. And it was really powerful to know that what we created was creating such an audible emotional reaction from an audience that was so fast and genuine and changed in just a split second.
Oh yeah, I mean that speaks to how invested they were in the film, because as soon as that happened, they immediately developed they cared for the little girl. They're like, no, we don't want to see that. And then you give them the pie, kiss her on the forehead, and they're like, oh, okay, well, you know, that's a happy ending there.
Yeah.
Not that that's the ending, but for that scene or that take.
And then the next that cuts straight to Carissa Liggett walking down the aisle at the Fisher, and then this was done in one take, and it was really fun because I had it envisioned in my mind, and it's just like two people walking toward each other. Carissa walking down the aisle, Ripper walking up the aisle. We have Olive's laughter still going on, and as Ripper passes her without even missing a beat, and he keeps walking, he just raises the pie and smacks her in the face with it and keeps going. So it was how I envisioned it. It was so much fun to see that actually happen that way. And just the idea that the clown's just like hitting people and not even caring, just like walking right by them and just smacking them and continuing along his way.
Now in the trailer, there's a little scene in there where you're like, it's shortly in the beginning there, you're walking in this alley, and there's another little kid, there's a little boy this time.
Yes, that's Sean's son.
That's Sean's son, really?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
And yeah, he like kind of walks up to you, and you like stick your hand out.
Yes.
Like I thought you were gonna like pull a pie out and like hit him with it, is what I was anticipating. But you were like, push your hand, kind of backed him away a little bit, like no, like don't.
Yes.
You don't want nothing to do with me. You don't know who I am. You just kept walking.
That was something we filmed on the fly, and because that's the opening scene of the film, and Xavier and Casper, both Sean's sons, they're twins, they play a bigger role later on, because we have a scene where people are false confessors, and people are, Albert's there with his ventriloquist doll confessing, they're blaming each other, and then we've got Dan Dungeon claiming he was the clown too. Just elements of true crime too, mixed into the horror genre, where you've got false confessors, you've got people pretending they got hit by the pie and they really didn't. You've got copycat people out there hitting people with pies.
I was saying, I love the makeup that you guys did on Dustin in the trailer, where you just see him turn his head and he's smoking a cigarette, and his makeup is perfectly done like yours.
It looks great.
Perfectly done.
And so that scene with Xavier in the trailer that you mentioned, that was an outtake. One of the many scenes that we did, and there are quite a few outtakes in the trailer, and and then also in the trailer is another one of my favorite scenes to film, which is the scene with Andrea Lynch at Dark History Con, and you were there for that.
I walked in during that moment,
and it was that I had talked to Andrea about doing a scene, and I saw her at Dark History. And I was like, maybe we can film something. This was Friday. I was like, maybe we can film something tomorrow. And she's like, well, think of something and let me know. And I literally turned around and saw the stage and turned back around to her. I'm like, I got the idea. It was just like that quick. And I was like, we'll put you on stage at the beginning of the day. There'll be the crowd here. I'll hit you in front of everyone. We won't tell anyone we're doing this, and we'll just get the audience's reaction. Then I went to Brian Ward, who's the head of Dark History Con, and I asked him, I'm like, do you want to add some believability into it? Do you want to jump on stage and chase the clown away and yell for security? And he was all for it. But then at the same time, that added an element of danger to me, for me.
It makes it, someone looking on might actually go and try and catch you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. When
tackle you to the ground.
When you're doing a scene in front of a live convention crowd like that, and there is that, I mean, it's cartoon violence, but still, it was a pie in the face when she was announcing the opening, the second day of Dark History Con.
And only you, her, and Brian knew anything about it.
And Sean and Albert.
And Sean and Albert, yeah.
And so, you know, we did it, and the audience, like, you could hear him on the film. They're ticked.
Yeah.
And I was nervous. It's the only time I've really ever been kind of nervous to the point where my stomach was kind of trembling, because I was like, there are a lot of people here, and I don't want somebody, because add the element of authenticity with Brian running into the scene saying, "Security, get that guy."
And he's the head of, he's the organizer. He put on the event, and you make yourself a target. Like, you know in your head, like, this is just, you know, comedic stuff. It's just slapstick, just a little, you know, teaser into, like, this is the kind of personalities we have here. But you also have it in your head that for that 10 minutes that this is all going on, everybody is just disliking you at that point. Oh,
yeah. And so, like, as soon as I hit her with the pie and I walked off frame and I knew I was off frame, I immediately jumped and turned around to face what was behind me. Because, again, I was very nervous that somebody was going to, I was worried I was going to get, like, jumped.
Yeah, and it's a possibility that someone calls for security and someone just tackles you through.
Yeah, because it was Mohawk Man. He ran up to me and he was like, "Dude, people are pissed," and they're like, you know, wanting blood or something like that. And I was like, I could tell they were. And this is like moments after it happened, and Andrea's still covered, and that was a great pie shot with her because it literally stuck to her face, and. So she sat down in the chair, and the pie was just there. It was just, it like did not move or slide off her face. So Sean and Albert were busy trying to clean her up, and so I was like, I wish I had got this on tape. I wish I'd had the wherewithal to tell Albert, "Hey, film this," because that would have been great for the you know, the credits or an outtake or whatever. But I grabbed the mic and I said, "Hey, this is all, you know, set up. We had planned to do this." Andrea knew about it ahead of time, and then she leaned in, and she was kind of half cleaned off and half not. She was like, "Yes, I knew all about it," and but I felt like I had to do that because,
absolutely,
you know, I wanted to get a genuine audience reaction, and they were mad, and you know, as somebody who was there as a guest, notwithstanding the fact that, you know, I didn't want people to hate me. You know, so I had to say, "Hey, we filmed a scene for a film.
It's all cool. We're all buddies. It's nothing personal." I really wish, I know that you had to do all that, and I know you had to, you know, take care of your image as well and make sure everybody was okay. I know we were talking about this earlier in the show. I wish that you had that all on camera.
I know.
Oh, it would have been
that would have been perfect for the credits. But, you know, it made me proud because here I'm dressed in this outlandish getup, and I made the audience suspend their disbelief for such a ridiculous scene. And they believed it.
You accomplished what you wanted to do. I mean, you could not have done that better. You know, people, but that was the goal.
Yeah.
That was exactly it. No one was supposed to know. Like, you didn't want people to sit there and be like, this is part of the act. Like, people were generally concerned. They're like, that guy just interrupted her and threw a pie in her face.
Yeah.
Who is this guy, you know? And then they see you in your booth a little bit later.
but still, like, you know, again, even though I knew there was that element of danger and I knew we'd get a reaction from the crowd that was natural, I still, like, in the back of my mind even today, I'm like, wow, like, it's amazing that they believed it. You know, that it was like something malicious or something, you know, that wasn't a joke.
I saw it myself. And
you were there.
I know in my head, you as a person, I've known you for a while, I've had you on here a lot, and I know that you're not the kind of person to do anything malicious really towards anybody. And when I walked in, I saw that, I had it in the back of my mind that, okay, this has to be some kind of stunt. Like, as soon as I seen it, I'm like, there's no way this is real. And then I'm started thinking about, I'm looking around me, and everyone's like really confused, and they're like looking at each other like, is this supposed to be happening? And they're trying to figure out what's going on, what just happened, and process the whole pie in the face.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there, and even I was taken back. I knew in the back of my head, like, oh, this isn't a serious thing.
Yeah.
But nobody's like, the atmosphere was so tense that you don't even think of it. You're more concerned with, oh God, I hope he's okay. Like,
you could feel it in the air.
Yeah. Oh, you could cut a string with that tension.
You could. And so, you know, it's a short scene, but it was one of my favorites to film because of that backstory to it.
Oh, that history behind it.
Yeah. And I was so relieved when it was done because I was like, wow, like and you know, this is the thing too, like if somebody jumped me, like they would actually believe they were doing the right thing. So I wouldn't have been able to, like, you know, push them away or anything. Like I didn't want to hurt anyone who happened to jump me in that instance because
they're just thinking that you're just some jerk who's running up on them. Yeah.
So, you know, it was like a lot of things running through my mind. And I was so glad when that scene was done.
Oh, I bet. Just the relief of, everybody made it out in one piece. That's all that matters. Got the pie cleaned up.
Yeah, I mean, I had, you know, when you do stand-up comedy, sometimes you deal with hostile audiences. You know, it's just a random thing. You never know how the audience is going to be. And I've dealt with that before, but this was just different. This was like, you know, dealing with a heckler in the audience is a lot different than dealing with the idea that you may have several, you know, an entire crowd, a group of people at a convention wanting, you know, blood.
Yeah, and I mean the group, the audience sitting in front of you, it was at the start of the day.
It was,
so you were at prime time to do that.
Yeah.
Every seat was filled.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
I really wish you had that on tape so you could just air that whole thing. I know. It would have been but I mean, I understand it. You had to calm the situation down immediately. You can't just kind of let that fester.
You know, I guess in retrospect, I could have said, hey, Albert, grab the camera, but he was helping Andrea at the time get the pie off her face, and I just felt like it needed to be diffused now.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Well, we're going to get into some music. We've been kind of rambling a little bit. I got some Sobered Up by AJR, some Hey Man Nice Shot by Filter, and Little Dark Age by MGMT. Stay tuned to WPCD 88.7. Don't change that dial because we have more from Ripper coming up here. Alright, WPCD 88.7. You just heard Pink Lemonade by James Bay. We are rolling strong here on the Monday Mix. I got Jake Aurelian with me. You may know him as Ripper the Clown, the great performer from Ripper County. And we've been discussing his feature-length film, The Stripper Ripper, which you can catch this Saturday. Doors open at 7 and the screening starts at 8. Now let's talk a little bit about more of the film. You got quite some impressive people making some cameos in there.
We do. We've got over 40 players in this film.
Sorry about that. I had your mic cut off.
Oh, okay. We've got over 40 players in this film. It was filmed in over 20, or approximately 20 locations in the area. And I'm really happy that we were able to involve so many local businesses and in the film and the production. You know, so we have quite a few people in the film. You know, you can go to the trailer. It's on YouTube, or rather Facebook. The new trailer's on Facebook. You just type in Stripper Ripper trailer. You can check out the entire cast. But we have a few notables in the film that I can mention. Richie Berner. He's an actor and a friend of mine. He was in a recent episode of Chicago Fire, and he was also in the you know, I mean, you may have seen it, that Real Cost commercial with the kid sitting in the theater with his date, and he goes for his snuff, and then all of a sudden, like, this monster comes around and like swirls around him. That's my friend Richie.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he's in the film, and we recreated his scene from Chicago Fire, because the episode of Chicago Fire, he's recording some kid who fell out of a tree. So we recreated his scene for this, where he's filming somebody and enjoying the fact that they got hit by a pie. And we've got John Borowski making a little cameo. That was filmed at Dark History Con. He's an author, filmmaker. He was in season 1 of American Ripper on the History Channel. And then we've also got Philo Barnhart, who is a former Disney animator. I mean, he animated for everyone. Hanna-Barbera, Don Bluth, just his work, it's in like pop culture legend.
Yeah. Oh, he's a very notable man.
Yes. And he also did voiceover work for so many of those films as well. I mean, he animated Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid. There are videos of me interviewing Philo on my YouTube channel, which is Ripper the Clown Show, one word, where we talk about his work on Star Trek The Motion Picture. He dispels and confirms myths about hidden messages in Disney films.
See, that is the coolest thing to me.
Yeah.
When we were talking about this earlier on in the show, how old are those interviews?
With Philo?
Yeah, with Philo.
We just did them back in October, I believe, so just a few months ago.
So within the year,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
I would say I wish I would have known about those sooner, because that's super interesting to me, that like this thing's been talked about for
Forever.
so much
Yeah.
time, and having one of the animators who was behind all that.
Yeah, and confirm that yes, it happened, but also dispel it and say it's not as much as everyone says that it was happening.
Just the truth in general,
Yeah.
Whether it's this big conspiracy or just something small, like a little inside joke.
Yes.
I haven't seen the interviews, so I can't really speak on it. But I for sure am going to watch them, though. But it's just super interesting to hear and know that Philo's a really interesting character.
He is, and he had told me that he had done voiceover work for all the cartoons that he animated. Simply, if they needed an extra person and they needed an extra, he would do a voice. So he could tell you what roles he had in The Secret of Nim and all those films. So I was like, most of the, as we were talking about during break, in the film, in the Stripper River film, most of the victims are female, because in the horror movies they're always female. And if you actually look, Chloe Miller, she's one of the actresses in the film, in her two scenes, she's carrying a book that I studied at the U of I, and I think it's called Men, Women, and Chainsaws by Carol Clover, and it's about women's roles in horror films. So I figured the most apropos thing to have her reading was Men, Women, and Chainsaws. And there's one shot with her walking, we see from behind her over her shoulder, and it's a picture of Camille Keaton, whom I met at last year's Dark History Con. We went out to dinner with her after, and I did a little video with her. So it was kind of cool that Camille Keaton was in the
absolutely.
picture of her.
Have that link there and those tie-ins.
Yeah. So we were talking during the break about that, how all majority of the I don't want to give away the ending, but the Stripper Ripper, but the victims of the pie attacks are female, and so I was like, how can I work Philo into this? It was hard to work male into this simply because of the limited.
Right, with your
roles.
horror movies, you have the scream queens, and that's like what they're known for is women screaming, getting killed.
Yeah, with the constraints I had, and I had the idea of Philo could be a radio caller. So what I did was, at one of the events, where we also filmed the interviews that we mentioned a few minutes ago, I just written a script on a little card. I was like, hey, I'm making this film. I had the idea for you to be a radio caller, and I played the host, and it's a spoof of that Coast to Coast.
Okay.
And it's called County to County, in relation to Ripper County.
Ripper County.
And Philo plays a radio caller who, calls the show to give his, what he thinks is going on with the Stripper Ripper, and then he throws in his theory on alien abduction as well, which is something I always enjoy poking fun at and making jokes about. And so it was really fun for me, because I got to do a back and forth, for this little scene with this master illustrator, master animator, and this guy
who's been in this industry a long time. I mean, Philo is incredible.
Yeah.
Secrets of Nim was my childhood.
Yeah, I know, me too. And to be able to do a voiceover scene with him, it was really special for me. And there are a lot of homages to old media in the film, old time radio, and for the scene with Philo, you don't hear it on the radio, but somebody's putting an old cassette tape in an old tape player and putting it in and hitting play, and then you hear it. So there's a lot of homages like that to the old media that I love that just isn't around anymore.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, and that technology gets outdated so fast. I mean, we had a DJ. He still DJs for us. He's just on a little bit of a break now, but he was talking to me. I'm a bit of a younger guy, and he was talking about 8-tracks, and I was like, oh God, I haven't heard about one of those things in a long time. And he's like, how old are you? I'm like, I'm definitely young enough to be past the 8-tracks, but I'm familiar with them. Yeah. And it's insane, how much it's always advancing. Now it's all electronic.
I know, and it's for me, it's nice to pay homage to that, and to have, if one or two people in the screening or watching the movie say, wow, there's an old cassette tape, and plus, you know how it was always hard to get because working with a new player or a cassette player, you try to put the tape in always the wrong way the first time, and you try to press it in and it wouldn't work.
Just
you had to flip it over
a little bit.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm going to do that for this scene because so you just see a hand put the tape in and try to close the door and it won't. Then it flipped it over. Like everyone will be able to relate to that. Even if it'll just bring back a little nostalgic memory for them of when they used to have cassette tapes and couldn't get them into the tape deck.
Yeah. And like in my life, I probably had a total of maybe 5 cassette tapes. I'm not super experienced with them, whereas like I'm sure you grew up listening to cassettes and that kind of stuff. Even for someone like me who never really dealt with that in my daily life, it's still like that archaic technology. It has that character to it.
It does.
And it has that funness to it of that vintage feel, and that really plays with the whole, you know, homage of like your movie and like putting your own spin on it.
You know, the film starts out where the first scene breaks in and out of a silent film.
Really?
Paying homage to the silent films. And then you've got static from an old TV sporadic throughout the entire film. And then you've got radio static throughout the entire film. So there's a lot of, you know, I'm a media guy, I guess. So I love all, you know, that type of stuff and the nostalgia of just hearing what, you don't hear radio, you don't hear TV static anymore. So, you know, I wanted to bring that same nostalgia to people who are like, oh wow, like radio, TV static. I haven't heard that forever.
Yeah, haven't heard that since Channel 3 days. You know. God, is there any media that you haven't tapped into? I mean,
I think I tried to pay homage to everything in the film.
I was,
including again old time radio. My parents have an old radio from like the 40s, and I brought it to the scene, the final scene with Chloe. And the last scene in Halloween, when the film wraps up and she's listening to the radio and she's hearing a radio broadcast.
She's got one of those like old timey needle dial.
It's like the old boxes, you know, the brown boxes, you know, the curved, and I'm sure there's a technical term for it. But so she's listening to that to start that scene, and it's basically the radio announcing from. Night of the Living Dead. I couldn't think of it for a second.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
And so
you have another staple classic in there.
I twisted that and made it the radio announcer talking about the pie attacks instead of the zombie attacks, and then it goes into a parody of old time radio, and then she clicks it off.
Oh man, I cannot wait to see this.
So there's a lot. There's, you know, each scene has a lot going on, and you know, and there's even one scene that we, you know, not necessarily pay homage to it, but text messaging. You know, there's a scene with a girl about to get Jen Lee. She's about to get hit with a pie, and she's texting somebody. So
you have a little bit more modern stuff in there too.
Yes, yeah.
Oh man, I cannot wait to see this. For those of you guys listening, that is this Saturday, March 24th. Doors open at 7. Screening starts at 8. Ripper will be here for a little bit longer. My show is about to come to an end here in the next 9 or so minutes. I got the Killers coming up for you. That'll be a fun one. But after that, we'll be closing out here soon. Ripper will be plugging in our little final thoughts here. So be sure to catch him this Saturday. You can actually catch me as well. I'll be there. I got quite the busy day on Saturday. I've got Art and Equality Con, and I've got the screening. So you guys know where to find me, and you guys know where to find Ripper. But we'll be back here shortly after the break. Close out. You guys stay tuned. Don't forget you can call it 373-3790. All right, WPCD 88.7. It is currently 2 p.m. and it is the worst time on a Monday. It is a time that my show is about to end. But all until next time. With me in the studio, I've had a pleasure of a time talking to you, Ripper.
Likewise.
Jake Aurelian, most of you probably know him as Ripper the Clown, hosting the brouhahas and the variety shows, and has just released his feature-length film a couple months back and is doing his second screening this Saturday, March 24th. Doors open at 7 and show starts at 8. Did you want to talk about any of your sponsorships?
Yeah, but real quick, downtown Danville, Vintage Villains, that's where it's taking place at.
I didn't even call it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm so used to talking to you that I just automatically...
You automatically know.
Yeah.
It's your greatest venue in the world, in my opinion. I've been to a lot of places.
It's a riot of a place.
It is. It's amazing. You've got the store. You've got the venue area. The store is just like pop culture nostalgia from head to toe. It's like a sensory overload everywhere you look.
I could spend a week in that store
Yes.
and still not see
Yes.
everything and not get bored
Yeah,
with it.
I know. And then the venue, it's a fantastic room, and you've got the old coin-operated video games and pinball games around the peripheral that you can play for free. It's fantastic. So a big thank you to Vintage Villains for hosting another Ripper the Clown program. And I want to thank our sponsors for this screening, Woodard's Computing Services. They're fantastic. Really, this is the only place that I'll take my computer when I have a problem. And my family goes there too. I've known Richard Woodard forever. His daughter Sarah and his granddaughter are in the film. And really, if you need your computer fixed, I recommend Richard Woodard. He's a great, honest guy. He gets his work done super fast. I've got his card right in front of me. It says, we do more than fix your computer. They build a relationship with you, etc. And they do. He's a really wonderful guy. His number is 217-446-2765. That's 217-446-2765, woodardscomputing.com. They're our sponsors for this event. Please support them and thank them for being involved in events like this.
Absolutely. It's a huge deal. Congratulations, by the way. I don't think I've ever formally congratulated you on this, but
Well,
it's a huge deal getting all this stuff out there and making it work.
Well, thank you.
I mean, yeah, you've had some help, but for those of you that don't know, Ripper's done 99% of this entire, and just about any show that he does. I mean, he's a very committed person who's committed a lot of time to his events and his shows, and this movie, it's not an easy task, and I applaud you for that.
Well, thank you. It feels, I think you're on the creative side too. You know how much work it takes to make a project happen, make an event happen. And when you're doing it a lot on your own, for the comedy shows, promoting it alone. For the film, I was writing, producing, directing, editing, everything.
And promoting.
Yeah. And, Albert King was behind the camera a lot of the times, but, I was still in the directing mode. And it's hard, and it's emotionally exhausting. So
They're long days.
They're long days. So when somebody appreciates and understands the type of work that goes into it, that means a lot to me, because not many people understand.
Yeah, and not a lot of people see that side of
Yeah.
it. A lot of people think you're just, filming a little bit here and there, and you just drop it in the editor. No, you spend hours on each scene.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's not a fast process
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Hundreds of hours.
Easy.
Yeah.
Even that's a low ball.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah,
It's one of my
always
favorite
a pleasure.
shows.
I'm glad to hear that. I tried.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned, guys. WPCD until next Monday. I'm sure we'll see Ripper again. I
hope so.
I bring Ripper. God, this is what, my fifth or?
I think so. Fifth or sixth time.
At least fifth or sixth. Yeah. So Ripper's a frequent reoccurring guest. So stay tuned. He'll be on here again. For sure, gonna have events coming through, especially. Anything planned in the summer? You don't want to really get into
I'm
that
hoping
yet.
maybe variety show midsummer.
Midsummer. All right. Well, yeah, we'll keep forward and look into that, and we'll play it by ear.
And who knows, maybe we can get you on stage for that variety show.
Yeah, I'd totally be
Try a
okay
little
with
stand-up
that.
comedy or something.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but but stay tuned. Thank you guys for listening. Coming up, I got some first aid kits, some Green Day, and some A Day to Remember. Stay tuned to WPCD 88.7 and enjoy the rest of your spring break.